What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Godsey for Justin Godsey TV. Thank you so much for checking out tonight's video. Tonight, guys, we're here talking about a 3-team deal has just went down between the Rays, Padres, and Nationals. It's a 10-player deal, and let me break this down for you guys on who is going where. Now, the San Diego Padres will be sending Trey Turner and pitching prospect Joe Ross to the Washington Nationals. Will Myers, Ryan Hanigan, and minor league pitchers Jose Castillo, Gerardo Reyes will be going to the San Diego Padres. Steven Souza, Travis Ott, Rene Rivera, Birch Smith, and Jake Bowers will be going to the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, Ott and Souza are prospects from the Washington Nationals. Now, let's talk about the big name in this trade, and that is obviously Will Myers. Now, yesterday it was announced, from Ken Rosenthal that, the Padres and the Rays are discussing a deal. How they got the Nationals involved in this deal is beyond me, but needless to say, it is done. It is, set in stone, and the Nationals did get into this trade. Now, the Nationals are a team that's really, building up on their farm system. They did lose a big name in Steven Souza, but needless to say, you're getting a lot of, promising players back. You're going to end up getting a couple of much young rookie pitchers, in shortstop Trey Turner, who's a hitting prospect, and pitching prospect Joe Ross, who have a lot of promise in. I think that Joe Ross is going to end up being within the major league level within the next couple of seasons. I think he can make a big impact for Washington. Potentially, what kind of situation that he is in, how will they handle him in the farm system. But needless to say, he's going to be on his way to the Nationals. Now, the big deal around this is the Padres and the Rays. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays, let's talk about them real quick before we get into the big name in Will Myers and the Padres. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays is not your same team as they were a couple of years ago. You saw a lot of success from them, but this team this past year became sellers. They traded away David Price to the Tigers. They don't have Joe Madden going into next year. He's off, coaching the Chicago Cubs. He opted out of his contract. This team is really primarily trying to get much younger. Their team is getting much weaker. Could we have a step back year for the Tampa Bay Rays? Absolutely. You have your prime 3 players on this roster being Evan Longoria, Yonel Escobar, and Ben Zobrist. James Loney is great, but he is not a consistent enough, player to be called and be a member of a Big Four. So, you got to look at your main 3 guys. You just can't put it all on these 3 guys. The Rays were, there has to be some sort of rebuilding phase in Tampa Bay following the trade of David Price. That means that, number one, David Price, they were not able to get David Price under contract, so they traded away into the Tigers. Now that leaves Alex Cobb, Matt Moore, Chris Archer, Jake Odorizzi, Drew Smiley, and Alex Colomé, all competing for, this spot in the rotation. So, the pitching rotation's up for grabs, but the hitting was always that big prime aspect of this Rays squad, because you cannot win games without runs, and the Rays are setting up their year to have kind of that step back kind of year. They're going to try and rebuild and get much younger talent, because this team has a lot of veteran names such as David DeJesus, James Loney, Ben Zobrist is getting up there at age, and that pretty much leaves Yonel Escobar and Evan Longoria out there. But Ben Zobrist, with his aging, he's still a consistent enough, second baseman, outfielder, wherever you want to place him. He's still showing a lot of success. So, they're not going to end up trading him away. But Will Myers was at once this promising prospect, going from, back in 2012, from hitting 37 home runs at AA and AAA respectively. He has risen to, main event status, the main stage status, that the Rays were just right on the cusp of bringing him up. But the past 2 seasons, he's only played a total of 160 games over 2 seasons. Injuries have just plagued him and plagued him and plagued him and plagued him and plagued him of having a full season up at the major league level. So the Tampa Bay Rays trading him away is not that bad. They're getting back a bunch of prospects that can help build for this team for the immediate future. Now, as it pertains to the San Diego Padres, the Padres are a team that's really, shocking me the most, because there has not been a ton, and I mean a ton, of free agents that would. San Diego has done a good job in developing a couple of big names like Jake Jericho down at AAA, Alexi Armista, but they also did get a couple of minor name trades. They traded away Chase Headley to the New York Yankees to get Solarte, who is now their team's primary third baseman. So this team is right around one of the youngest teams in Major League Baseball. They're bringing in a couple of veteran names, and Matt Kemp. They're bringing in they're pretty much bringing in Matt Kemp for the most part, but they do have a couple of veteran names on this roster. Naming Carlos Quentin, who's been a big journeyman around Major League Baseball. From Arizona to the Chicago White Sox for a few years, to the San Diego Padres. But now that the San Diego Padres, with the addition of Will Myers and Matt Kemp, someone does have to go. So this is the opportunity where the San Diego Padres can do trade bait now. They do have two options to end up getting traded. And if they want to, commit, Will Myers to being their right fielder, that's going to end up leaving, Seth Smith, Cameron Maybin in center field with the addition of Matt Kemp on the line of potentially getting traded. But I think when you really look at it, they've got to keep either or. Seth Smith has really made a big name for himself out there in Oakland, with his clutch hits, his home runs. So he does pack a mean bat. But the San Diego Padres' biggest need right now, next to adding a couple, maybe a pitcher to add some depth to this roster, but you can always foreshadow that and look at your biggest need right now, and that is a catcher. San Diego does not have a catcher to open up for opening day. That means they have to hit the free agent market, hit the trade market. Likely it's going to end up being the trade market because they do have two players that are open to getting traded. That with this addition of Will Myers, it's going to open up a lot of trade rumors with San Diego with other teams. Now, Cameron Maybin has always had a lot of success where he's gone, but this past year, it was kind of one of those toned down years because he did get suspended. I want to say if it was for testing positive for an illegal substance. I think that's what it was. But Cameron Maybin can be a name that's going to be being brought up in trade talks. The Padres do need a starting catcher, and right now when you look around the diamond in Major League Baseball, around teams, there's not a lot of teams out there that's currently trading. The Padres could be linked to potentially end up trading with the Milwaukee Brewers. I think that could be a legitimate option for the Milwaukee Brewers. They could end up trading away Martin Maldonado, who has been trapped as the backup catcher above Jonathan LaCroix. Now, Jonathan LaCroix has found, is one of the top prime catchers in Major League Baseball. But Martin Maldonado is he's a rising catcher, but he's not getting enough bat time to show what he's all about. The Padres need someone, and they need someone fast to really open up spring training and get something going. You don't have Rene Rivera. You don't have Yasmani Grandal. You don't even have Nick Hundley. This team has really, digged a hole for themselves at catcher. That means they have to end up bringing someone in, develop them. Their farm system is not even ready. Their farm system does not have an MLB-ready catcher to really do, enough work to really make a big impact. They really need someone to make a big impact. And I think guys who are some underrated catcher is Martin Maldonado, and I think a lot of people don't give him enough credit. There's also rumors out there that the Atlanta Braves are obviously packaging Evan Gattis along with Justin Upton. I think that the Padres could potentially end up talking out of getting Justin Upton because they already have a stacked outfield. I think they could potentially end up setting up and trying to trade away either Seth Smith or trading Cameron Maybin and maybe a prospect or two over to Atlanta to acquire Evan Gattis because he is a badass catcher. He can do a whole lot for this Padres team. And Evan Gattis showed it last year. He was a very under the radar name in Major League Baseball until he started with his consistency being brought up from AAA Gwinnett, starting the entire year. He has done a whole lot for Atlanta and has made a big name for himself at the Major League level. So getting Evan Gattis over to San Diego is a big option. So I would expect you guys to really hear from the Padres in trade talks with the Atlanta Braves, with the Milwaukee Brewers about their catchers, because those are the two teams that can end up shopping catchers. Besides Jonathan LaCroix out there in Milwaukee, I think the Padres will stay within the National League and trade within the National League. I think that could be a big option for that team going forward. So if you guys have any other thoughts about that, let me hear what you guys have to say about this. This is a huge deal. The Padres do not have a catcher. They really need it. A 10-player deal has been finalized between the Rays, the Padres, and the Nationals, with Will Myers going to the Padres. Matt Kemp, Will Myers, Carlos Quentin. Is this the best outfield in the National League West? Is this the best outfield in Major League Baseball? Let me hear your guys' opinion about this